you have come such an unbelievable way. Like that, I can remember the first session in particular. You really were like a wounded animal, and I've worked with quite a few people who were depressed, but you were very like depressed and like you'd completely given up. You were at that point of like nihilism and like hopelessness, depression, like all of that beautiful package, right? Like depression, hopelessness, there's no point. And even if there is a point, there's no point to life anyway. So
Yeah.
like, why should I
And
even bother? Like, why should I do anything?
I was so afraid that whole time to get better because I was like, I know I'm just going to hurt like this again. And like, because every time that I like went through a depressive episode in my 20s, like it was worse every time. I was like, I'm just going to be in this place again. I don't even want to get better because it's like I'm going to get better and then I'm going to fall again. I'm just going to hurt again. And I don't want that. But now taken a lot, but like I'm not afraid anymore. Like I accept that as a reality. Like, yeah, I probably will be in like maybe not as dark, but a dark place again for sure because I have depression. But like yeah, I'm just not afraid of it anymore because like I have so many more tools in my toolbox and like
Mm.
people that love me that know the tools in my toolbox, some of them, and so they can like help me and encourage me even more than before. So
I think a weird part of depression, and this is something that you and I touched on in the first couple of sessions, like one thing that I get people to do that I did with you is just sort of like embrace it and say, okay, fine, I'm depressed. Okay.
yeah, exactly. That's like what I had to do. I said it to you last time. Like I had to meet myself in that place. I had to like
Yep.
walk down all the stairs inside me, the deepest, darkest dungeon inside me, and meet myself in my lowest, absolute lowest place and just not judge, just be there.
And that's the key point because you know, in those first couple of sessions, I very much got a sense from you that, and I mean, you directly told it to me that everybody else was trying their best to help you. And some of them were doing like a really good job and they were doing everything they could. But it was all coming from a place of like, we have to fix Thea. Like,
Yeah.
Thea needs to do these things and then she'll be fixed. And I
Yeah.
remember you coming to me very, I don't know if frustrated is the right word because it was
Mm.
deeper than that. Like frustration would be a lovely thing to feel when you're depressed. It
Yeah.
was like deeper and darker than that. And it
Mhm.
was this sense of like everybody's just telling me what I should do, but I can't match up to the or I can't live up to their expectations. And that
Yeah.
sort of for depressed people just makes you feel like more of a burden. Everybody's
Yeah.
trying to help. They're
Yeah.
like, get out of bed, go get a job, go do this. You have to go outside, you have to lose weight, you have to hit the gym,
Yeah.
all of that. And you're
Yeah.
like, I can't. I
Right.
physically
I
can't.
like can't. Yeah.
And the pressure that you're putting on me, I love you for at the time you don't say I love you for it, but like you understand that it's coming from a loving place, but it's just
Yeah.
more pressure. And I
Yeah.
remember the first couple of conversations we had where I was like, okay, like you're really nihilistic. And I can hear in your voice and hear in your words that you're trying to fight the nihilism. You're trying to say like,
Mm.
I shouldn't be nihilistic. I
Yes.
should get my shit together. And I
Yes.
remember those first couple of sessions we had where, and I have to be gentle when I do this with someone who's suicidal or depressed, but I just said like, okay, you're nihilistic. Why?
Yeah.
And I didn't try and fix it. And I was just like,
Yeah.
why? Like, why? Let's talk about why. You're
Yeah.
not nihilistic for no reason. You're not a
Right.
fucking idiot. You're not
Right.
irrational.
Right.
Let's explore that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that's what I mean, what I explored with you, like the most important bit was like the no judgment thing, like the
Mm.
not judging what I was saying, not judging myself, just like, let's look into that. Let's let it be seen. I just was talking to my coworker yesterday and she said the thing about trauma is that it wants to be seen. So either you consciously take it out and look at it and talk about it and acknowledge it, or it's going to come out by itself.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fear, depression, trauma, and all of that sort of stuff. It wallows in shame and guilt, and it's sort of hidden by shame and guilt. And we
Mm,
often, when we're depressed, and you were really depressed, and I definitely was too in my
mm,
20s, we feel so ashamed of that. We feel ashamed of who we are. We feel ashamed of the effort other people are putting into trying to help us. We feel
mm.
ashamed of the fact we can't do basic tasks like get out of bed. We just feel so much shame and guilt, and depression feeds off that.
Yeah.
And part of the process of working through guilt or learning to process some of that shame and that depression is going, it's okay that you're depressed. And it's such a radical notion, and that's why I say I always try and be really gentle when I'm working with someone who's suicidal. But I remember even saying to you, like, yeah, if you want to kill yourself, you can kill yourself. Like, and that's
Yeah.
such a fucking.
Yeah.
I work with a guy who literally does suicide prevention. Like, it's his goal. He coaches other people in it, and yeah, he really struggles with this one too, because he's like, how do I tell my staff that they simultaneously want to try and obviously help someone who's suicidal, but not put pressure on them and say, I don't want you to commit suicide. Because it's almost like if I sit there, and I had to do this before you and I sat down, and especially when you started telling me that you were nihilistic, that you were suicidal and all of that, I have to do a lot of internal work while I'm listening to you. And I have to go, look,
Yeah.
Andy, put your shit aside, son. You don't want her to kill yourself. You don't have the fucking right to put that on her. Like, she's got everybody else putting that on her. And it's almost like if I sit
Wow.
there and say, how can I fix her? How can I stop her killing herself? I'm
Wow.
then becoming needy. I am now needing you to
Wow.
do something. And if you're depressed, it's like, I can't handle one more person needing me to fucking do something. So it's this weird catch-22 where I have to, in my mind, be okay with you wanting to kill yourself and be like, hey, that's your choice. You're an adult. I'm not going to put my shit on you. It's really interesting psychologically. Different diets, like keto diet, carnivore diet. What if I try cutting this out? What if I try cutting that out? And having like massive impact, not just on their mental state and stuff like that, but like literally hormones and like stuff we can actually track and say,
Yes.
holy shit, that's made a difference. And I think
Yes.
there's sort of a cookie cutter approach to nutrition and diet in
Yes.
society. It's like, eat as
Yes.
much wheat, eat as much grains as you possibly can, and the rest will sort of figure itself out. So how much should switching the diet up matter to you?
Oh my gosh. That is how I control my depression now. Like I am 100% like in control of it for the most part, like the major depression. And like, so I decided to do paleo for at least 30 days because I had done it a couple years prior and felt pretty good. And so I just brought it up to my mom. I was like, I'm thinking about doing this again. She's like, okay, this is the day we're starting. You, me, or dad, we're going to do it. We're starting. And I was like, whoa, okay, I guess. And like the day that I started was like, it was just very slight, but I started feeling better that first day. I also, the same day, went to a naturopath and got started on some supplements that have been pretty helpful, mostly for anxiety and not so much the depression, which previously, for most of my 20s, I didn't know where depression started and like anxiety ended. I
Those two
couldn't
things
separate
feed
the
each other.
two. I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
And now that I'm like very much not in depression, I am not depressed. I'm like exploring my anxiety more because it's its own thing now. It's not tied to the depression. So the supplements help with that, but the food, so paleo is no wheat, no sugar, no dairy, no alcohol, no legumes. And yeah, the dairy and the gluten do mess with my stomach, but the sugar, I can feel it now. Like if I eat sugar, especially like really processed sugar, like if I eat an Oreo, I can feel it in like 10 to 30 minutes. It'll start like the cloud of depression, the cloud of negative thoughts moves into my brain and I can feel it. Like, and it's scary. Depression is scary because it can be so subtle. You're just thinking thoughts, but they've got this negative edge to them and they just creep in there. And so I've noticed that like if I eat something homemade that's got just like white sugar in it, that doesn't affect me as much as like if I eat something store-bought processed with that processed shit in there, sugar, like Oreos or whatever, cookies, stuff like that that's from the store. But I can eat as much fruit as I want. I can eat as much honey as I want. Like endless amounts of honey doesn't affect me even a little bit.
Yeah, diet is one of those things where it's like, it's very fucking individual. And anyone listening might be like, what are you talking about? Like, you can eat sugar at home, but not out. Are you fucking on drugs? Like, the number of people that I have met that just have weird fucking, like, not allergies, but just weird shit happens.
Sensitivities.
Yeah. And I have a lot of experience with this myself. For me, it's caffeine. A lot of people can go, well, I'm fine with caffeine. if I have even one Coca-Cola, like a can, 300 and whatever mil it is,
Mhm.
if I have one, I crash like an hour later. And you might say like, oh, crash. Yeah, everyone crashes after caffeine. No, 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 no. To the point where I literally can't think and I have to lay on the couch. Like literally I'm like retarded brain fog. And it took
With
me a
coffee
long time.
too. With
Yes,
coffee too.
every caffeine, anything caffeine, to the point where I can
Tea,
have something that has,
coffee,
yes,
all that.
I can have something that has caffeine in it. And if I don't know it's in there, like an hour later, I'll say, fuck, do you think that they screwed my order up when I ordered a decaf coffee at
This
that
is me
cafe?
with sugar.
Like,
Me with sugar.
yeah. And I will sometimes even go back and ask and say, hey, did you guys have decaf when I asked for that? And they're like, oh, shit, sorry, we don't have decaf. So we just gave you regular coffee. And it's like, fucking hell, that's
You
right.
just fucked
And
me.
so,
You just fucked me.
yeah, yeah, like to the point where I literally can't think for the rest of the day. And it's something that
Wow.
I've had to sort of
Wow.
get out of my diet because I fucking love coffee. And I
Yeah.
love the stimulant of caffeine because I get
Yeah.
the stimulant and then I just nosedive down. And
Wow.
so people do have food sensitivities.
I like had encountered the concept of nothing matters and that's great before I became super depressed. So I had that idea in my head, but then when I was super depressed, it was just like, yeah, for real, nothing matters. Everyone's stupid for caring about stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why do you even care? Mom, why are
Yep.
you wearing a Christmas sweater to work? Nothing matters. Why? Like, we're all just going to die. Why are you even like having this conversation? Why are you even cooking this dinner? Why are you even washing the dishes?
Yeah.
Nothing matters. Like, it's just stupid. We're all going to die. Like, at any second, we could all die. Like, why? And then I couldn't get away from that when I was depressed. That was like part of the state of consciousness that I was in, you know. I couldn't escape that feeling, that nihilism of nothing matters and why do anything because nothing matters. And then when I started to feel better, I started to come back to like nothing matters, and that's fucking awesome. I love that nothing matters because like I was in such a dark place that I really, really saw that nothing matters. Absolutely nothing matters. And so then coming out of that experience, I was like, well, first of all, nothing can be worse than what I just experienced. Nothing can be worse than that.
Yeah.
Nothing that I'll ever experience in life, even probably like death of like a close loved one, like my parents, my brother, like can be worse than like screaming. The voice of my ex-fiance screaming in my head for like the entire day that I'm a piece of shit and I should die. And I'm also a piece of shit for not getting better and all of this. Like that evil voice in my head for most of the time was his voice. And that was the worst part of the whole bit. And so yeah, coming out of that was like, yeah, like I'm not depressed anymore. I'm not in that place anymore. So everything's awesome. I'm so happy to be alive. I feel so grateful for life, for the breath in my lungs, for the sun in the sky, for the moon, for the grass, everything just like overflowing with gratitude now because nothing matters, but I get to be here. I want to be here. Like, it's amazing. Everything's like a miracle to me now. I wake up in the morning just like I feel like this childlike wonder all the time now.
Yeah, it's almost like a bonus. I went through the same shit. I had promised myself that I was allowed to kill myself when I got to 30.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason I chose 30 was because I hated myself so much that I was like, you don't deserve to kill yourself. You have to sit here and suffer. When you're 30, you have suffered enough and then you're allowed to do it. And so it's this weird sort of like torture thing that I used on myself.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Like more like of that like self-abuse kind of stuff that
it was a
depression.
weird self-abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of that was fear too. I was literally scared to just like, I had the knife there like hundreds of times. I would walk across traffic and look at a bus and be like, if I just stop and close my eyes. But I was like, yeah, I bet I don't die. I bet it just hurts. And that's worse.
Yeah,
what if I end up in a wheelchair?
Worse. What if I'm
That's way worse.
paralyzed and still depressed?
And then I can't kill myself.
God.
Yeah. Same as like, what if I slit my wrist and then they put me in some psych ward and I can't kill myself now? Shit like that.
Right.
But at some point after I'd worked through enough of it, and maybe we could have put this earlier. Anyone listening, by the way, if you're going through depression and stuff like that, I did a very in-depth video that was like 3 hours long, and I have a really long article that's like 70,000 words or something with resources and how I overcame my depression. So I'll leave a link in the description below to that. But me going through and coming out the other side, it felt like I'm not supposed to be here. Like I cheated.
Yeah.
Not cheated in like a bad way, but like, holy shit, by like divine grace or random chance, or I don't even know why, but I'm alive and I was supposed to kill myself, and I had lots of opportunities. The analogy that I use there is it's sort of like I snuck, you know how in concerts and stuff like that, there's like a VIP backstage pass you can get to go meet the celebrities and shit like that. It's like I snuck in there and I'm behind the VIP section and I don't have a ticket. I'm not supposed to be there. And then the celebrities come over, you know, the artist or the musician or whatever come over to me and they're like, hey, how's it going, Andy? And I'm like, it's good. Great show. And he's like, awesome, man. I appreciate that. Yo, bro, come here for a hug. And they hug me and I'm like, can I get you a drink, Mr. Famous Celebrity? And they're like, sure, bro, that's sick. Thank you. And I'm just like waiting for someone to kick me out. And then I hang out with them for days, weeks, months, years. Yeah. Nobody's and you're like, okay, I guess I'm allowed to be here. And then at some point, everyone's like, yo, that's Andy. He's my best buddy. Like, he's supposed to be here. And then at some point I go, you know, I don't have a ticket to be here. And they're like, yeah, we know. Like, we knew 10 years. We just don't care. Like, it's fine. Like, you earned your place now. And so it's this weird sense of like, I wasn't supposed to be here. And so you still keep that nihilism. Like, you and I aren't fucking retarded.
No.
We didn't wake up or go through a transition and wake up one day and go like, maybe everything does matter. Like we're not irrational beings. And by the way, somebody who isn't nihilistic, please don't assume that I'm telling you that you're stupid. That's not what I meant by that statement. I can see how it might look like that, but we kept our nihilism. It's just now it's like, fuck, this is a weird bonus. In other words, this is the story that we were telling. And when you're depressed, it's hard to understand that you're just putting a negative lens on things because you're not doing it intentionally. You don't even know you're doing it. You think you're being realistic. I think the difference is now we don't even think of it, and I'm putting words in your mouth, so I don't even think of it now as, am I being realistic by saying that life is wonderful? I don't know. I don't give a fuck.